Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening, everybody. Welcome on to another episode of the Money Stop, joined by Laner and myself. And, man, first off, I want to get to, I guess, Washington and Watkins Glen. What a weekend for the league. I think it was a very, very long night for all of the drivers and including me. I want to start off with Washington first. I feel like we definitely need to have a conversation about that. Also, I'm going to be a little more quiet tonight because I am not in my normal setting, so I kind of just have to be aware of everything else of where I'm staying. So if I'm a little more quiet, don't be surprised for the episode. But yeah, anyway, um, Washington was very interesting. It was a new track for us, and we had never we had never been there before. Um, and I feel like a lot of people, like as the race progressed, just got like more aggravating. So what ended up happening was we switched to Watkins Glen, um, and we finished the race there. Um, but I will say for at least like the Washington Street course part of it, I at least enjoyed it. I had no problems with the course. I know other people were having lag issues. They were not able to adjust themselves to the course. They found it more difficult. Some enjoyed it, some didn't. There was a mix a lot of the time. But I feel like for me, I at least enjoyed it. So, um, yeah. Laner, I want to get your thoughts because you were the one that actually made the course. So I want to get your thoughts on what you thought about the race and what your thoughts were on the complaints about the course. I don't know. You don't really have to touch on it. Just give me a little bit of your thoughts about, you know, um, how that transpired.
Uh, yeah, I'm very upset with the way the whole thing went down. I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, Mostly because I don't feel like the issues were racing related. I feel like they were lag related. Um, and it wasn't a widespread issue throughout the field. Um, we only had two drivers that were complaining of lag. So it was definitely very frustrating the way the whole thing went down. But from a racing perspective, I actually enjoyed the racing. Um, and I really had a lot of fun in the first stage that we did do there. So um, I don't know. I'm sure other people might have differing opinions, but I really didn't have any complaints from a racing perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think if the track maybe was like smoothened out more, I feel like people would want to see this track back, but I feel like it maybe was a one and done deal, unfortunately. I feel bad for you because I know you spent a couple hours making the track and you put your time out of your day into making it um, just so we could run it. But I feel like if it's the race is over and done with now, and we can't really change anything about it, but we can kind of help steer away from uh, having that happen again if a situation comes up. Like we don't know what tomorrow will bring at Chicagoland because we've never been there. We don't know what we don't know. Oh yeah, I think we lost
Y-
our audience for a
Yeah, looks
second.
like we're
But
having having some difficulties.
yeah, we lost our audience for a second. Um,
I don't know if it's better now or
Okay, I think they can hear us now. Anyways, I what I was saying was that we don't know what Chicagoland will bring because, it's a newer track. The cars have never run there before. You know, Signs are indicating that it's going to be a good race, but we don't know because people like weren't complaining about Washington until we raced there, which is very fascinating to me because a lot of people raced in groups there like weeks leading up to the race, and um, they didn't have any problems until the truck race, and that's when all the problems started to unravel. So I'm interested to see if Chicago might be the same thing. I'm hoping it's not because it races really well, at least with like a single car, and it seems promising. So I'm hoping that it will be a good race, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about that later in the show. But um, at least for right now, I feel like just a better solution would be to better prepare for a situation like that. Just finding an alternative plan, in advance if something doesn't work out, and obviously letting people know. Um, it's a little harder too because we were planned, like we planned on running at a road course, so we were gonna stay at a road course. Um, but the unfortunate part is nobody had practice, and we couldn't run it at a new track. Like we had the Chicago Street Course on there, but nobody really has practiced on that. There's a couple different options that we had, but practice was playing a part into that, and then just the logistical part. But I think,
Y-
Lena, were you going to say
Yeah,
something?
I I would just say next season, regardless, if we go back to Washington or wherever, I really do think that we should go back to a street course. Um, just because I think that we proved through the truck race and the first stage that we can do street racing. Um, Maybe Washington wasn't the best layout. Like maybe a course like Chicago would be more of a better layout for this series, but I really would like to see a street course on the schedule next season personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think Chicago would be a good addition. I think since it is a real track and people see how the layout is formed, I think it'll give a good idea of like just the braking zones and how to better prepare for that race. Um, I understand how Washington was a little different just because it's a fantasy track, so it's not something you can really relate to in real life. But yeah, I will say um, I hope that there is a street course next season, but I also hope that there's a regular road course, whether it be a new version of Sonoma or like I would like to see Watkins Glen come back, but we've run there so many times. I would like to see a different track.
Yeah,
Whether
that's
it
how I
may
feel
be
too.
the the Indy Road Course or Sonoma, like I said, or Silverstone. Maybe we're hearing as a possibility. What else am I forgetting? Um,
I mean,
Coda,
uh,
yes, Coda.
yeah,
Um,
Coda's been back the Coda's been on the last two seasons,
I
so
feel like you could also do the Roval if the Roval there's like a good version of the Roval that is doable. I feel like, but yeah, that's
yeah,
all I'll say. I feel like 2 to 3 road courses next season would be an ideal thing, but um, we'll have to see
yeah.
how it
I
shakes
mean,
out.
if you go with three road courses, then I would say you keep Coda just because we've ran there twice and we really haven't had that many issues with it. In my opinion, Coda's been our most reliable road course. Um, I'm with you. Like I would kind of like to get away from Watkins Glen. It's just been around for so long. I
Hmm.
would really like to branch out. So if we're only doing two road courses, I would say get rid of Coda just because I would like to personally see two new venues altogether. But if we're doing three road courses, then I would say keep Coda and then go to two new venues.
Yeah, and kind of getting into Watkins Glen too for a second. So obviously this race was split in half. The first half was run in Washington, and then the second half was run at Watkins Glen. And I came out and won the race at Watkins Glen. Um, but I feel like Washington would have been a very different result if, we had stayed there and finished the race there. So I don't even know how I won the race. It kind of came down between me and Land. But the thing that sucked about that track was that the veterans were able to still prevail. Um, because me and Land have run there so long and in so many situations, like I remember at one point like the cutoff race was there. I remember that very distinctly because I lost that race coming off of the carousel, and it was this close. Like it was thin margins, and I hit a bump, and I think I just crashed. But I remember a couple of races there, and I think that the track has not like outdated itself, but I feel like its time is kind of expiring. There just needs to be uh, a refresh, I guess, would be like an ideal word to use. But like a lot of the vets typically run there better because they have that experience, since it is the same car, and yeah, there's just a lot of veteran that goes into Watkins Glen. Um, and the race came down to me and Land, and uh, I mentioned it in my post race interview, but just a lot of respect between me and Land, obviously, as competitors and um, as people off the track. We respect each other very well, and he raced me very clean, and that's something I can come out and say right now that, me and him have had a couple run ins, but one thing that we've been sure to agree on is that we always race each other clean, and we don't try and cause each other issues, because we've had a history. So people that know that history and were around to see that history, it was not pretty, by any means, and it was not fun, on my end or his end. So um, unfortunately, for him, it didn't work out too well. Um, in the end, I think he hit a bump and he got into it with another driver, or no, I think he hit the wall off of the first turn, and he got into it with another driver and salvaged what he could at the end of the day. But it was a very very long day for that team, and they were there at the end. It just didn't work out for them um, in those closing laps, but it was definitely a wild race. Laner, what were your thoughts after we switched?
Um, I I don't really like Watkins Glen at all, personally. I never run good there, no matter what I do. The car gets tight in the worst possible spots. The tires wear out too quick. I really don't like it. Maybe that's just me personally because I don't run good there. I'm sure if I was running up front, I would have a different opinion. Um, but something about me and Watkins Glen, sorry, I can't speak. Something about me and Watkins Glen just don't get along good together. So yeah, I don't know. It was a typical Watkins Glen race for a road car. Um, yeah, I mean it is what it is. Nothing special from my perspective.
Yeah, and one thing that I was thinking of as you were mentioning that, the acceleration update helped. I think it really really helped, at Watkins Glen, because usually there's a couple parts of the track where you can reach maximum speed, like off of the first turn and all the way up to the bus stop. You're running full throttle, max speed. Um, and this time was a little different because you got down into the first turn and you weren't going as fast because you weren't having as much speed coming down that straightaway, and then working your way up to the bus stop, through the S's, you were picking up speed. So it was more realistic in that sense, and I liked that because it didn't have, you had to work more and more to make sure that you were keeping up with your speed, each lap. And you built huge, huge runs in the past, um, to get up to the car in front of you, and that was not the case this time at all. It was more so just who could run the better line and who had more speed off of the corners, which I liked. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a different Watkins Glen race than we've seen in the past, that's for sure. But I definitely would not want to see that track at all on next season's schedule. And I hope to God whatever the final schedule will look like. I hope that that track is not on it, because there are other options, and I think there are better options. Um, you know, there is a new version of Sonoma, I believe, and
Yeah, there is.
it's a lot better than the one that's currently in the game. So if we could give that a spin, I feel like that would be a good replacement. Um, Again, I know a lot of people don't like Sonoma, but Sonoma offers a different challenge. Like it's not your typical road course. Even throwing in the Indy road course as well, I'm sure that there's a model of that somewhere that can be added in. But
Yeah.
I feel like both of those might be good replacements.
Or you could do like Daytona Road Course, or I mean, Silverstone. I don't know. Like there's Canada Tire, whatever the Portland Road Course that Xfinity goes to is. I mean, there's so many road courses that we could go to. We don't really have to stick to Watkins Glen and Coda every year.
Yeah,
Um, like there are hundreds of road courses um, on this planet that and I'm sure 90% of them have a model in Roblox that we could use. So um, we just need to look into some options and figure out where we want to go and what would work good for this league. But I don't think going to the same two road courses every season is really necessary, uh, especially for road courses. Because like oval tracks, like sure, there's really not that many oval tracks because that's a NASCAR thing. But
right.
road courses, like there's road courses all over the planet, so you can really take your pick on where you want to go with road courses.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'll mention about Silverstone, because I know it's been in discussions to have that track in the game. My only worry about that is that the track is so big, and Formula One goes around that track so fast. But a NASCAR, like a stock car, might take
Yeah,
forever to go around that track. So you might run like 15 or 20 laps, but that's maybe it. Maybe even less than that because the track is so damn big. So I don't know. There definitely needs to be some discussion about you know what tracks you can run at next season, but I think that there are a lot better options than Watkins Glen, and I think that they should be explored. But I mean, nonetheless, though, we ran there this past weekend, and our team did a great job executing all race long. We unfortunately got stuck with the broken pit box, so we um, did not have any success on our pit stops. But the good thing was that pit stops became non-competitive, so we were up front for most of the time, so we got to keep our spot no matter what. But it was very unfortunate, and that's another thing too. I hope that in the event that we have to go back there, I just hope that there is going to be some fixes made around the track, including that, because it won't be me getting stuck, but it will be somebody else getting stuck there in one of those boxes. So um, I hope that that will get resolved. But um, yeah, I'm interested to see though what people will maybe throw out in the chat for suggestions. I know Monza is a popular one right now, but um, I don't know about Monza. I feel like Monza would be a long race as well. So yeah, but a lot of suggestions being thrown out. I think there's definitely some better options out there. All right, I think we should move on we spent a pretty hefty amount of time talking
Yeah.
about the races. Um, so we're just going to get into some news that has been going on the past couple days that we just want to fill you in on. So, first thing we got here is that so obviously Craigus is going back to GFM next season. It was announced earlier this week that he would be moving back to the number 54 car with Bush Light on the car. Very, very solid looking car. Um, and you know, he's going back to Toyota, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's going to be back, to struggling next season. I don't know if, he'll take his winning ways there, but it should be interesting to see him run back into Toyota next season. Um, I may be I may be in the commentary booth a couple of times next season, so I'm looking forward to seeing that car out on track and hopefully maybe seeing it in victory lane. It's a very, very nice scheme that was put together. So definitely pat on the back to Craigus and um, that whole team. I feel like they do a really good job with putting together schemes. Um, so yeah, definitely um, at the top of the list for me, at least right now, on schemes out there. But um, that came out this week, and then it was announced by Catamount Racing that they have an announcement on Saturday in regards to a Project 81 car that they are fielding next season. Um, their driver roster announcement is this upcoming Saturday, July 20th at 2 o'clock. That will obviously be before the race on Saturday night. So definitely tune in for that. Should be exciting to see what their driver roster looks like. Bass Pro Shops, Dr. Pepper, and Celsius are all sponsors. So it'll be interesting to see who those drivers are. But that is the news kind of for the week. It's been a slow news week, unfortunately. Not much going on as we get geared up for the playoffs. But um, nonetheless, at least there still is a little bit of news to talk about. One more thing that we have to get to before we really start talking about the weekend ahead is the points. So there is a major update with the points. So also kind of earlier announced this week, it was announced that Icy would be withdrawing from the playoffs, um, and he won, so it locked him into the playoffs. But um, he is withdrawing because of his absence. He's been out the past several weeks, but from I didn't put in the statement. I didn't add the statement in, but okay, here it is. Yeah, so SSR released their statement on when was the 13th? Saturday, last Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, said Icy has chosen to withdraw his playoff position. It's a very tough decision for the whole team and Icy personally, but we are confident this is the right decision moving forward. Next season, Icy will be racing on a part time basis, and they appreciate Icy for everything that he has contributed to the team and look forward to the future. So, obviously, still going to be very involved with the team, but just in not it's not going to be on a full time basis. But nonetheless, he'll still be involved, and yeah, it's definitely unfortunate to see him kind of step down again. We know that his availability has always kind of been in limbo, unfortunately. So we haven't really been able to see Icy, on a full time schedule at every race. But obviously when he is there, his presence is felt, and we really appreciate him. Um, and obviously, just for you as a team owner, um, for him to withdraw it's heartbreaking for the team because all three cars were locked in. We were just missing Slater, but now we're down a car, so it kind of is very unfortunate. But um, I'll let you give your thoughts about this and kind of talk about the conversation that you had with him leading up to the decision.
Yeah. So Basically, me and Icy had a conversation on Saturday, and he just wasn't. I mean, he would have had to attend the next 2 weeks to be eligible,
Mhm.
anyways. And he wasn't sure if that was going to be realistic on the first hand, but on the second hand, he did not want to take away a spot from Aiden or Jax or some of these other people who are um, a lot more active than he is, and I guess he didn't really feel right like leaving one of those guys out who have been to a majority of the races whenever he's only been to a few, and the only reason he's even in the playoffs is because he got that win. So we just felt like moving forward, the best thing would be to withdraw that spot and give it to somebody who's been active. Um, but obviously, it's really disappointing for Icy and the team as a whole because Icy really did earn the spot. But I mean, if he doesn't feel like he's going to be active in the playoffs, then it's not really worth keeping the spot. So it was a tough decision, but we still expect Icy to be around whenever he's available, and nothing's going to change from that aspect.
Yeah, and I've already made it clear too that I'll be at SSR next season as well. From a leadership standpoint. So hopefully, getting to work with him um, too in that aspect will be rewarding for both of us. And it'll suck not racing with him on the track, but obviously, all that he's contributed over the years has been very, very fulfilling for everybody to see, and just uh, a well deserved. I don't want to call it like a retirement, but it certainly feels like a retirement in that aspect because we might not even see him at another race this season. So, just thinking it might be a while before we see him in the next race. It kind of is a semi-retirement, but yeah, I think regardless of what it is, before we come out and say it, very very respectable career that he's had, and yeah, definitely a career to be proud
I
of.
agree.
um, Oh yeah, back to the points. Okay, I lost myself for a second. Um, so the effect that this has on the points is that this moves everybody up, um, and it locks in the field. So Rondo was out from like week 3 or 4, obviously, but Slater has been off and on as well. Um, but he is not eligible for the playoffs because of his attendance. So um, yeah, so it's Slater, Icy, and Rondo that are out, and the field. I will put it up on the screen. Give me one sec. The field is as it looks here, and those are the 8 drivers competing for the next championship at the end of the season. A reminder that there is 2 rounds. 4 drivers will be eliminated. Or wait, do I have it correct?
Just two in the first round.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was like, wait, that's not right. Two, I mean, will be eliminated in the first round, and then that final 4 will be set in that final stretch of races after that. So it'll be very interesting to see. Just because the points are so close, they could change. I feel like the only person who might be safe right now is Land. Everybody else below that, though, is kind of just, you know, it's not really a good area to be in right now. But yeah, let's talk about the points, though, because this is what we're working with now. We're no longer talking about points battles from week to week. Now it's about who seeds where. Um, if you seed, like, let's say third or fourth, that might be where you like if you make it to the next round, you'll be put back there. Um, you'll just maybe be in a different point situation. Um, come that time where it resets. Um, hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying my best to explain it to everybody, but it is almost 10 o'clock. So um, yeah, when the playoffs start, everybody will like where they seed will be like where they start, and the cutoff line moves up. Whoever those bottom two are will be the first two out, and everybody above that will be fighting above to stay above the cutoff line.
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
another thing that people might not know, it's not like really public information, I guess. The top 5 regular season finishers do receive additional playoff points. So the regular season champion will get 15 additional playoff points. Second will get 10. Third will get 5. Fourth will get 3, and fifth will get 2. So the top 5 regular season finishers will also get a few more playoff points. So really, uh, if I'm just doing this off the top of my head, the first two out whenever we start the playoffs, as it stands right now, obviously this can change after this weekend. I think it would be Jax and Aiden. Yeah, it would be Jackson and Aiden would be the first two out right now, assuming they don't win a race or get some stage wins or something.
Right.
Um, me and Land are gonna be you and Land are probably gonna be in a really good spot to get out of the first round on playoff points. And Craig is I would say he's in a pretty good spot to get out of the first round too. But everybody else is gonna be pretty close on points.
I would say the only thing for us is just to make sure that like our teams have consistent finishes if we can't win. Um, because
Yeah.
if somebody down farther down in the points wins, that moves us down one, down one, down one, down one, and you know, you know how it goes. It's a knockout version. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Just as long as you can keep up with getting points and racking up points and trying to keep yourself in contention week in and week out. Because looking at the schedule really quick, it is a interesting lineup of tracks in the first round. So we have Nashville, and then Charlotte, and then the cutoff race is Canada. Um, I think that's a really, really interesting set of tracks just because Nashville we've never run at, especially with this update and then with the acceleration update and the updated cars. And it may fairly be a longer race, so it's definitely going to be a more grueling race for the drivers. And um, I know that Charlotte we ran at last season. Um, just haven't tried it with the minor changes and the acceleration update. But that again is going to be a longer race. And then Canada, like we've said in past episodes, we've not run at in a while. It's going to be interesting. A lot of these tracks we haven't touched. Some we haven't touched in a while, but um, Charlotte, it's been a little while. But the other two, I'm a little like they could be considered wild card races because some of these drivers haven't raced there before, and it'll just be interesting to see who kind of adjusts first. But I think the more important part right now is just kind of uh, figuring out where everybody will seed.
Y- Yeah, the first round is really interesting. You have two tracks that we haven't raced at in a really long time, and then throw in the longest race of the season in between those two tracks, um, with the multi groove update too. So this round is honestly gonna be a wild card. Like Charlotte, yeah, we ran there last year, but it's gonna be a totally different race with the multi groove. So nobody knows what to expect at Charlotte. Nobody really knows what to expect at Nashville or Canada either because it's been so long since we've ran there, and there's been so many new changes to the cars since the last time that we have raced at those tracks. So yeah, I mean this round is really a wild card. You don't know what to expect at any of these venues.
Yeah, I agree. I think like we said, it'll just be uh who seeds where, and if you can make it out of the first round. I think the first round will test everybody. Um, it's it's not going to be easy trying to get out of the first round, but I think the second round will really be the challenge for who can make it um, to the final four. Just a reminder of the tracks because this is a doubleheader weekend, so after this weekend we will be in the playoffs. Um, the next race will be Nashville. Um, so just looking at the second round is Pocono, Las Vegas, and the Milwaukee Mile is the cutoff race. Really, really good set of tracks here. Definitely gonna test some people though. Las Vegas is very, very fast, and I don't know if it's gonna be a pack race. In the past, it's been a pack race. Pocono, all I've had issues with is lag there, and I know that's another track that a lot of people have lag at historically. Don't know if that's going to be the same issue this time. Um, and then the Milwaukee Mile, I know is a favorite. It was a favorite last season, I mean, and it offered one of the closest finishes in the series, if not the closest. So it was a very, very good race and put on a very good show. Definitely deserves that elimination spot. Looking forward to racing there and seeing if those three races are the races for that round. Should be interesting. But what do you think about this set of playoff tracks?
Um, Honestly, like it, the whole playoffs is kind of a wild card to me. Um, I don't really know. Like honestly, Pocono and Milwaukee seem like the most straightforward tracks. Um, just because we raced at them last season with the package that we will be running this season. Las Vegas will have multi-group too, so that throw that out the window from last season.
Mm,
Um, so I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, Pocono and Milwaukee are probably the most straightforward races, and I guess maybe Charlotte. Even with the multi-group, it shouldn't be too different. I guess. I don't know. Canada won't be too bad. I don't. I mean, it's kind of a simple track.
yeah, it's
Just
fun though. It's very fun. Like for people who haven't raced there, I think they'll enjoy it.
but like we just don't have any idea what to expect with all these new updates to the cars at these tracks. So nobody will really know until we get cars on track at most of these places.
Yeah, and another thing I want to point out too is that these playoffs are kind of split into two. Obviously I talk about the wild card races and then more of like the test races, like what will test you the most. But if you look, half of these races in the playoffs, um, we haven't raced, you know, in a while. Pocono, um, I think we raced at Vegas last season, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yeah, we
yeah, Vegas has been on there. Canada and Nashville, though. I don't know, like what we're gonna see. That's all I'm gonna say. I think it'll be very interesting to see how those races play out. Um, and we could very well see favorites like Land or myself or you. It could go either way. I don't know when we get to that point of the podcast where we have to start talking about those races. I might just skip my race win picks because there's no point in making a pick if I don't really know what to go off of. I don't have like proper statistics, so um, it's gonna be a bit of a head scratcher for me. But um, very quickly, let's talk about the championship race. Championship race this season is at Texas Motor Speedway, and from my understanding, is that we're still having the multi groove, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't put me on the spot with that because I don't know. Regular Texas is really nice too. So
Yeah,
maybe we'll have some internal discussions about what we want to do with that for the championship.
yeah. I think that's going to be really a good conversation to have. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I'm not really sure, if the multi groove is still the move, but hopefully, it'll stick around. I would like to see the multi groove stick around for Texas. I enjoyed it at least when we test ran it, but um, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting playoffs, and it's shaking up to be maybe one of the wildest. Uh, we haven't started, but you can tune in next weekend. It's going to be one hell of a start to the playoffs when we kick off things at Nashville for sure. Um, Anything else you want to talk about with the schedule or points?
No, not really. I guess that kind of leads us right into having a double header this weekend.
Yeah, it does. Oh man. Okay. Um, so I'll do this first because I should have done this on the last episode first, but I'm gonna go over just the I guess weekend of events. So there's no truck racing this week. Just so that's clear, there's no truck race. Only two cup races back to back. 65 laps tomorrow at Chicagoland for the Camping World 100. Stages are 20, 20, and 25. It's a little bit of a longer race, and when we start will be longer, or later. I mean, we start at 9 rather than 7 or 6 o'clock. We'll be starting a little later tomorrow. So practice kicks off at 9, qualifying to follow at 9:15, and then the green flag is at 9:30. Um, Martinstown will be Saturday. This is the elimination race. Obviously, like we said, no need to worry about who's being cut out of the playoffs and who will make it in. Now it's just who will seed where. That is the most important part. Just thinking long term. Um, the Hot Dog 300, interesting name. Anyways, you should have named it the Glizzy 300, but I won't go there. Um, 85 laps. Stages are 20, 25, 25, and 35. Practice kicks off at 7, qualifying at 7:15, and the green flag is at 7:30. Right now, there's a couple more people checked for tomorrow's race, and there is 6 people checked for Saturday's race. Um, so could play a factor into the points and who shows up and who doesn't. I'm still a little in the air about it because I may be either going back home Saturday or Sunday, so not really sure if I will be home in time for the race. Um, if I go home Sunday, though, I'll definitely be there. But Saturday, if I go home Saturday, maybe I'm still going to be a maybe. So uh, yeah, but tomorrow I'll definitely be there. Looking forward to it. Let's talk about Chicagoland first. What are you looking at? This is obviously a new track for the series, and we're not really sure what to expect. Um, but from what you've run, at least testing, what are you expecting to see?
Um, well, we do have the multi groove in for Chicagoland. Um, it seems like it's not. It feels a lot better than Kansas to me. Um, like I don't know how to really explain that. If people who have ran laps on the track kind of understand what I mean. Um, but I don't know if the lanes are going to be as even as they were at Kansas, just because the track is so wide. It was kind of hard to make the top grooves work. Um, So I don't really know what to expect. I do think we will see passes, but I don't really know if we'll see people like using the top lane consistently. I think it'll mostly be like the middle lane and the bottom lane rather than the full width of the track. But I could be wrong. I don't really know what to expect. But I really think Chicagoland's going to produce amazing racing, honestly, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I've ran, I would say like 20 laps so far in testing laps. Um, I think it's the multi groove is going to be a lot better than Kansas for this sole reason. There is a lot more room to move at Chicagoland than Kansas. Kansas is maybe 3 lanes at most. Um, Chicagoland, there's like 4 or 5, but also in the turns, um, there's more uh, lanes to work with. So there will be more room to spread out. There shouldn't really be any problems with wrecking or people just getting too tight in the corners. I'm not expecting it to be a pack race. I'm expecting it to get a little more stretched out now that people are becoming more used to these races getting stretched out. I think it will at some point, but I'm interested to see how it'll play out. Not really too much more thoughts besides that. But I know that it's going to be a long race nonetheless, uh, and I'm wondering who will be the favorites. From what I understand, each lane produces different lap times, so I don't know how that will play an effect to it. I feel like people maybe will use the beginning of the race to feel out their cars and maybe just test the lines and see what may be faster, what runs, or what works, what doesn't work. I'll be interested to see that. But for now, I guess we can only kind of predict what's going to happen. We don't really have anything to go off of, unfortunately. But um, I mean, you can kind of compare it to Kansas in the sense that, it's just fast. It's a fast, high, multi groove, high speed track. Just more lanes to work with at Chicagoland. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's going to be totally different from racing, especially because now we have the what is it, the acceleration update in, and
yeah,
from the few times I've practiced with other people at Chicagoland, I think it's safe to say things will get spread out. Um, the way you take your line and your corner exit speed is really going to determine if you maximize your lap time or not. And if
yeah.
you aren't maximizing your lap time, you're going to fall behind. So it's really going to be up to the driver. Um, and it's not going to be a typical pack race. So people do need to prepare for that. I would say my two biggest things for this race will be number one, how will drivers adapt to a later start time? Because I mean, this race is starting at almost 10 o'clock. I
Hmm.
know it's a Friday night. I know it's a Friday night. So you don't really have to worry about that, but it is different than usual, so that is something drivers will need to adapt to. And number two, add on to the late start time, you're throwing a whole new combination of things at the drivers with the acceleration and the multi groove and a brand new racetrack. So it'll be a very interesting race.
I think another thing too is that I think like Chicagoland is going to be interesting in terms of just what people try to think about strategy wise. If you try and think outside of the box, qualifying is going to be very, very important for the race. I think like where you qualify will matter for the race because it might get stretched out. So if you're up there um, trying to win the stage or trying to get stage points, qualifying is going to be your best friend tomorrow and maybe even Saturday too. But Saturday won't matter as much because it's a short track in a sense, maybe. It's a little longer, but it's still kind of a short track. But there is more opportunity to make up spots and to really find some speed there, there is opportunity at Martinstown. Chicagoland, we don't know about. And that's why I say maybe use qualifying as like maybe your best friend to try and make up some spots and maybe save yourself some points and maybe get a stage win. Because
Yeah.
like if you don't qualify well, I just don't see how you could make your way up there and hold it throughout the stage to get the stage win. Um, at some point, you might drop like a rock, um, or at some point, you may decide to pit and give up the stage win um, if it comes down to that. But we're not really sure what it's going to look like yet. So if things do get stretched out, um, we'll know. Um, I feel like in practice we'll know if people can stay together in practice, like in little packs. But it's going to be very interesting to see, for
Yeah,
sure.
and also add on to that, 65 laps is really short for a mile and a half track. So um, you really won't have that much time to figure out the track. Um, I mean, like once we get going, that race is going to be over in no time. It
Yep.
might take like maybe 50 minutes or an hour. So um, you really just have to hope that you show up with speed. And if you don't, well, try again at Martinstone because you're really not going to have much time to figure it out.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see. Um, I don't really have favorites circled or like favorites in mind for the race, but I know that when I think of mile and a halves, I think of GFM. GFM really has worked on their mile and a half program. And they've been fast at mile and a halves, so um, I'm interested to see, if they'll show out tomorrow and Saturday, or maybe just tomorrow, or maybe just Saturday. I'm looking for their speed though, and looking for the next time they can get to victory lane, if that's tomorrow or Saturday. But um, yeah, I think their mile and a half program is really really good. So I'll have them circled. Um, at least for our team, I'm not really sure what to expect. Um, I don't know if Slater's going to be there given the playoff circumstances. Like now that he knows that he's out, I don't know if he's going to be there. So it may just be down to you and me, buddy. But I
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what to expect out of our team. But uh, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Um, anything else you want to mention with Chicagoland?
I don't think so, no.
All right. Let's move on to Martinstown. Um, so obviously, I mentioned that this race it's a complete 180 from Chicagoland. Nothing like Chicagoland. So drivers are going to have to be prepared for the quick turnaround on Saturday. Uh, again, version of Martinsville. We tried running Martinsville, but it's just not doable. So um, yeah, so we're running Martinstown, and I think that. Sorry, I'm paying too much attention to the chat, but um, I think Martinstown is a really really good playoff, or like a good eliminator. Um, I think Martinstown is going to present a challenge to drivers um, on who can survive. Because Martinstown, I feel like, is a track of survival. It always has been. Um, Martinstown is a beast. It is an animal. It is something else. Like, you know, we have fantasy tracks out there, but it's nothing like this. Martinstown is so much fun. I have fun every time I go there, and I really, really enjoy the racing. I'm interested to see how the acceleration and the updated cars will look with it. I've run some testing laps there the past couple weeks, and I can say that it feels different from the car. It's not gonna be how it's been in past years because we're used to getting up to like max speed so much faster, like off the corners. Um, but this time it's gonna be a very different approach for the drivers. I think that um, you might even have to brake later into the corner and try not to overdrive the corner. Um, you know, Before you were running 195 all the way down the straight, and you had to brake so much earlier to just get a good run off the corner. But now, since you might not even be reaching top speed, you might have to brake a lot later to at least even make a good lap in qualifying. So it'll be really interesting to see uh, just what different um, approaches people take because it's going to be a race about approaches. Like throw the strategy out the window for this race. I don't even think strategy is going to matter. Um, One thing we have to mention is that the pit road has been shortened. Um, from pictures that I've seen and from the testing laps that I've run this week, pit road has been shortened about half the track, and there is a merging lane right off of the pit lane now. So drivers are expected to leave pit road and be on the merging lane until the yellow dots end. There is yellow dots to signify the merging lane, so there is no reason that drivers should be like flying off of pit road and just merging back on track if there is a driver coming at full speed. So that's definitely going to play a role as well because we used to have to go all the way around the track just to get
Yeah.
off pit road, and that was really inconvenient because there wasn't a pit road speed. People would fly, and it was a mess on pit road. But um, I I think that will definitely play a part if the race goes green. I doubt it because this race is always caution filled. Um, but I will stop yapping. Laner, give me your thoughts.
I will say, I will have to do some testing tomorrow after Chicagoland once the packages are switched around. But I'm not 100% sure if the acceleration update will stay in for Martinstone or not. Um, Obviously, I'll have to take out the multi-groove package and then just see how it feels. But it is possible that we might just use like the original package that we've always used at Martinstone for this race. But I'm not sure. We'll just have to see on that because I don't really know like if the acceleration update would benefit Martinstone or not. Um, if anything, I feel like it might actually make the racing worse.
Mm,
Um, in Martinstown, like I don't know, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Martinstown's always been super crazy and special the way it is. So um, I'm kind of leaning towards personally just throwing in the original package for that race, um, just because you don't really need to fix anything if it's not broken. But
yeah,
in terms of the racing, yeah, the pit road will be an adjustment, but I think that'll actually be a good adjustment because if we had to go the full scale of pit road um, under a green flag cycle, which is very possible nowadays, we've been having a lot more green flag stops. You could very easily lose 2 or 3 laps. So that'll definitely be a positive. But in terms of the racing, I don't know, just typical Martinstown people getting bumped in the corners and crazy wrecks and pissed off drivers, all of that stuff. Something that I will say though, um, we go to Chicagoland, and I'm sure there's going to be some drivers that aren't very happy with each other after that.
yeah,
And then less than 24 hours later, we're going to throw them on our craziest track. So that'll be very interesting. We'll see how that goes.
yeah. Martinstown is not the best track for. Um, Having a problem with somebody else. Um, if you have beef, you better watch your ass if you go to
Yeah.
Martinstown. Martinstown is not the place to F around with anybody else, because you will get sent far, far away from the track. There is ways to send people outside of the track. Um, so I am very, very cautiously optimistic about the race, but I think it'll be a good race. I don't even know what this general chat has become anymore. I really don't. Anyways, yeah, I think Martinstown we can kind of do a better job with making predictions on like drivers too, because yes, there will be some updates to the cars, but people have run here before. You know, I have a feeling we'll see you up front. I'm probably sure that I will be up front. Land will be up front. He has won here before, so have I. Um, Lego has logged the laps here. I'm sure he'll be up front in contention. And I'm wondering who will be in the mix besides that. It'll be very interesting to see. I know that, obviously Kragus has logged laps here too, so there will definitely be some front runners. But yeah, this race is just going to be pure chaos. Like I said, throw the strategy out the window. It doesn't really matter who doesn't, make it in. Everybody's in. Like I said, just matters where you seed. Um, but yeah, I think all hell breaks loose on Saturday. I honestly think it's just going to be a race of survival.
I agree, and nobody really has anything to lose at all.
Yep.
Um, I mean, we're all locked into the playoffs. Everybody's really just going for a win. So, yeah, good luck to everybody, sincerely, because it is going to be crazy.
Yeah, and the thing I enjoy about these races the most, and something that I've enjoyed over the years, is that every time we come back to this track, or like just a track in general, something always changes that makes the race more interesting or makes it more questionable. Like we're never going to go to the same track. And that's always what has been enjoyable about this league and just racing in it the past couple of years. It's definitely been a fun time. Definitely been a fun time. But I'm looking forward to seeing how these changes affect the race tomorrow and Saturday. I think we previewed it enough. But let's rate the race from this past weekend. I guess let's rate Washington only. I would say let's just rate Washington because Watkins Glen, we kind of like know how it is. We've seen it already. Let's rate Washington from a pure um, percentage standpoint on, I guess, what you thought the racing was, or like how you thought the racing was, and um, just your thoughts about it as we wrap up.
Uh, if I'm just racing Washington, I would give it like a 60%. Um, I mean, I enjoyed it for the most part. Yeah, I'm not gonna go any higher than a 60, but I didn't really have any big issues with it.
I would say that probably a 70% is a good percentage for me. Um, at least on my end, I feel like I enjoyed the racing, and like I said, I had no problems with it. So, um, I personally enjoyed it, and it sucks that it probably won't return, but uh, it was a good, um, it was a good inaugural, event, just like the hype around it. Um, but yeah, I know I at least enjoyed it, and yeah, hopefully. Hopefully, maybe in the future we'll come back.
I agree. Yeah. Um, one more thing to note about Martinstown before we probably wrap things up. 85 laps, I think it was. That's going to go by super, super quick at Martinstown. So that's another thing to note, is that everyone's going to have to be aggressive from like lap one,
Yep.
because you're really not going to have any time to make up ground. Laps go by super quick at Martinstown. So yeah, normally we're doing like 100 or 150 laps there. So both of the races this weekend will be a lot shorter. So intensity will be picking up a lot earlier than it normally does. Which I say that everybody's always intense, but it'll be crazy from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah. Agreed. Um, was there anything else? I don't think so. Um, yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, super super excited to get out to both tracks this weekend, and looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great way to end the regular season. Totally looking forward to it. You guys can tune in tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Um, I'm sure time will be going live some point after qualifying. You can tune in tomorrow night, and then don't forget to tune in Saturday night as well. We'll be wrapping things up in the regular season at Martinstown, and it's going to be wild. These next two races are going to be really really wild. But yeah, don't forget to tune in, and we're getting to the playoffs. So have a great night, everybody. Take care, and we will see you after Chicagoland and Martinstown. Enjoy the rest of your night and have a great weekend.